All right. All right, let's get into the guts of what we want to talk about with Brian. For those of you who don't know, Brian's we call him our copywriter, but he's really a researcher and writer for us, and he's charged with putting up content on our soon-to-be new website. But he isn't waiting for the website to get started to do it. He's been putting out content for a couple of about a month and a half or 2 months now. And we've just been posting them in our Telegram, like everything else. It quickly disappears, but that doesn't mean it's gone forever. This is all good content for the show here and for us to discuss. And then when we have our new website up, and our new PooCoin killer, all of this content will be part of it. But as he puts them out, we'll do kind of a holistic approach to having them put out in print, having them on the blog, having topics covered here on this channel, whether it's by me, Wes, Carmen, Brian himself, or anyone else that's part of our education platform. And of course on social media, in order to get the word out about everything and really drive viewers back to DYORpro.com to use our new platform that we'll have coming out and to build our user base, community, support the token, and bring in revenue from subscriptions or however we price our education model. And of course, the first thing Brian writes about what he talks about is just the different techniques that scam artists do. And when you're a new investor, you generally take people's word for just about everything. If someone says, well, it's always blue, you're like, okay, well, it must always be blue. And what the Brian goes out of his way to talk about is that one of the best things that scam artists do is they cause you to follow everybody in by FOMOing. And we've mentioned this word a lot, and everyone listening is probably aware of this term, FOMO, the fear of missing out. And the fear of missing out, they do it in a sales pitch in which it says, hey, you got to get in now. It's gonna happen. You know, this thing's going to go through the roof. It's going to go crazy, and they generate that buzz. Their Telegram room or their Discord or Twitter is just hype. And then, of course, you join, and what happens? You guessed it. What happens, Carmen?
Dunzo.
Dunzo.
Honey pie.
You get Dunzo, you get Rugdo.
Rugged, ruined, and wrecked.
Right. And Brian goes out to point out that a lot of times people on these scam coins that use the FOMO method provide false information, whether it's in the old school way of a Ponzi scheme in which you'd get fake bank reports and account reports like mailed to you. And now it's done in a way in which people provide fake information on their website to hype everything up, and then fake information in Twitter and all their social media, including fake doxing. And we'll get to doxing in a minute too. But on that note, since everyone on this program now and many of our listeners are fairly experienced now, Wes or Carmen, tell me something you FOMO'd into. It doesn't need to have gone wrong, but just say, like when you were new, what'd you FOMO into?
Safe Moon.
Me too.
Yep, definitely. That was my first FOMO. And I was buying crypto before I discovered the Binance Smart Chain. But once I saw all these tokens on the BSC and I found that Safe Moon, I became addicted. Yeah. But that was the first one. My first FOMO was definitely Safe Moon.
Yeah, I think my first FOMO was Sonar. So when I was hanging around in the BSC space around June, right when DYOR launched, I was testing out, different how to use PancakeSwap, and I had gotten into Sonar at an all-time high.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that had that issue with Safe Moon and getting in at the highs, but also a lot of people also had that with the DYOR version 2, and we hope to rectify that out with version 3 and move on. Anyway, another scam project or scam thing that Brian likes to bring up is that a lot of projects are doing this now, is that say, we're releasing a blockchain. We are going to have a blockchain, and we want you to invest in this, and it takes a lot of money to do a blockchain, and we are going to do it, and we are going to do it, and they keep saying we're going to do it. Kind of like SafeMoon, but SafeMoon does have a lot of money, so we're not so worried about them. But it's a common thing now in which they say, we're going to develop a blockchain, We just need a lot of money to do it, and they hype it all up. And then it turns out they were never developing the blockchain. And the developers are, as they say, off in Ibiza doing their thing with spending your money. If you watch
There's a very specific term for that, and it's kind of an old term that predates crypto. And I'm sure you've heard the term vaporware.
Vaporware, yes. Tell us a little about. Do you have any specific examples of blockchain vaporware?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's a lot of projects that had grand ideas that just never played out. They just never come to fruition. So, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything specific.
All right, we will get back to that in a little bit and let you think about that for a while. But anyway, there's so many projects being developed that it's a high-risk situation for entering any project that's developing something brand new. Blockchains are very difficult to do. There's only a couple very successful ones right now, but there's thousands of people saying that they're bringing it out. The best thing if you're going to develop a blockchain, frankly, right now is to just piggyback on someone else's while you're developing your own, and then you can get your customer base running and everything going. So you got to watch out for that. Let's see what else. Oh yes, Brian talks about the fake on the fake blockchain. One of the most popular things right now is the metaverse. The metaverse. How many people understand, and this includes Carmen and Wes, how much money it takes to build just a regular video game that is fairly interactive? I'll answer it for you, a lot. And now how about multiply that by 1,000, in which you have communities and people and not just controlled gaming boxes entering into it, but various different types of devices. It requires a ton of money, and not even Facebook can do it yet properly. Everyone has a very good little metaverse, but really it's just a 3D room like a convention center, and it's not really a big thing yet. It requires an enormous amount of computing power and bandwidth. So if someone says we're developing a metaverse, say how many hundreds of people do you have working for you, and how many millions or tens of millions of dollars have you raised to do it? Because it's going to cost a lot. And there's especially on the BSC chain. Come on, guys. They're not going to be raising money on the BSC chain. They're going to be raising money from angel investors, and then going out, kind of like MetaHero is doing, going out also to the blockchain or to the smart chains tokens to raise additional money. But really what they're doing is raising awareness is what they're doing there. It's a marketing technique. So if someone says fake metaverse or metaverse, say you got a fake metaverse, and I'll rather go play Halo because that's a fully developed metaverse. So we go into, and this is a good one that we've all dealt with, and that is, how do we find legitimate crypto investments with a real chance of success? The first thing that Brian wants to bring to our attention, and we've all talked about it here and we've all witnessed it, the problems when this happens is when developers do not dox themselves, or they do, but they're tricking you. And so what we want you to make sure, if you're a new person coming into this and you're not relying on a group of people, kind of like our future Pootcoin killer, to say that program is safe and their devs are doxed and we're fine with it, you're going to do it on your own. You have to go out and investigate their social medias, go to their LinkedIns, make sure they have proper connections, make sure they're not an actor just hired from Fiverr. On one of my episodes of Ruined and Wrecked, it was a big, I think it was 1,000 BNB scam. And the developer was all over their website. It was just a guy hired from Fiverr to read off a script. Never had anything to do with it. In fact, I've reviewed 2 of those in the past 3 months, and it's quite popular to it.
One of my favorite things to do when I'm vetting projects and I see their docs devs is you can do a reverse image search, and you can see that if this image has ever been used on the internet, you just pop it into Google, you upload the photo, run the reverse image search, and there have been times where the name on the crypto website doesn't match the LinkedIn or the actual business website. It's a completely different person with a completely different title, but there's that picture that's on that weird crypto project. So it's definitely a nice tool, because it's nice when they're doxed, but they can definitely be fake doxed. That is no question.
They certainly can. Carmen, have you had any experiences with poor doxing? Carmen, have you had any experiences with either wrong or poor doxing?
100% absolutely.
I
And you know
set you
that.
up
So
for
my
that one.
headset went out of battery. So let me tell you this. If you're a new investor in this space, understand that some of these red flags that we're covering in terms of how you can protect yourself from losing your money to investing into scams is not information that's coming from studies or from peer-reviewed journal. That doesn't exist in our space yet. Unfortunately, all of this good information comes from experience. So sometimes it's not just developers in our role and leadership that's trying to be the voice of reason. These are experiences that our members and our communities are coming into our communities with. So when they find us and they find, oh my gosh, these guys are on camera, I know who they are, I know their first and last names, they're on the website. These are things that shock them because before they got to us, they were falling for the scams and they had really bad experiences. And know that if you're new in this space, you are the target. Okay. And scammers and people with malicious intents look for people that are novices. I come from a retail background for technology and diamonds and gold. And, when I worked in the diamond industry, we were a hot place that people would love to come and steal, grab and
Right.
runs. I've been through armed robberies. And you know what they look for when they come in? They look for the newest employee. They look for somebody that's not confident. They look for somebody that doesn't really know what they're doing and they're afraid. So people prey on that. So when you're a new investor, these are things that will become fundamentals for you because you'll learn that you can expect these things, but understand that from a leadership standpoint, projects that are growing, when they get really big, leadership gets a little bit more distant because they're so overwhelmed with operations and having to run the big business. But the advantage that we have in this space is that projects are small and you have a leadership team and you're starting sometimes from day one, and you should have access to a developer. You should be able to identify who they are. You should be able to demand from them the same things that you would demand from, a cookie business opening up for the first time and you're at the grand opening. You're most likely going to meet the owner there. That's where you're at. So if you are, not getting the access that you need, not having transparency, not even having an open line of communication, absolutely that's your first red flag. Because if you're going to put money into a project that's promising X, Y, and Z, and that's what they're marketing, then how are you going to know if it's going to be successful? The first
Right.
couple of months of a project, quarter one of a growing project that launches, is the most crucial time to identify. Now, expect as a new investor that not everything's going to go perfect. But when you
Never
have
does.
access to the developer, no, it never does. But when you have access to the developers, some advantages that you have is that you will find what kind of leaders are in place. How do they face the challenges? How do they communicate to the community? And are they honest, right? We all can have a gut feeling. But if you don't know who they are, and the reason is, oh, I have a real life and I have to stay,
Right.
anonymous for X, Y, and Z, or because of the utility of my project, I have to stay anonymous. That's not going to be true 100% of the time. It's going to be a small percentage and it's going to make sense, but they can still have somebody on the team there that can be doxxed, that can build that trust with the community if that's the case. But if you're falling for it where you don't know anybody and you can't validate who they are, run.
I remember one particular project that I invested in a while ago, and and I've mentioned this on one of my shows before, and they had a very nice run one day, and basically a day in which the world kind of learned about them. They'd been out for a month, and then they 10x'd in a day or something like that. So they had their whole team on, and everyone was on video, except for the founder. And the founder was just a little blurry flame, and it was the project bonfire. And I found that odd. And I was like, oh, this is weird. The whole team is out there talking and stuff. And it was like every community moderator and everyone had anything to do with it. And then, sure enough, couple of weeks later, the price is tanking and the dev has gone missing. And that project ended differently because they turned it over to the community. The community got control of it somehow. But I was like, well, that's weird. Why are all these other people showing their face and not the lead dev? Anyway, that your response to the experience about being doxxed resonates for a lot of people out here, and especially the people that come in and don't realize that with stock markets, the people that are retail traders in the stock markets, everyone that's selling to you is generally a company that's registered in the jurisdiction in which you can buy the stock in. So there's really no worry about people running off because the government has either corporate surety bonds, they have insurance, they have a corporate presence, they have law enforcement, and many of the things in crypto, you're not dealing with a company, or if you're dealing with a company, you're still dealing with individuals that are remote and probably remote from where the company's jurisdiction is. So you have to do your due diligence and make sure you really understand, are these devs really in the public eye? Because if they are, then they'll be responsible like we are, getting up here and talking and teaching people about it, instead of just running off with your money.
Right. I mean, well, Tom, you know that I had a personal experience, not as an investor, but as a team member
Right.
of a project similar to what you had just mentioned, where, you know, everything's fine and dandy. We're out there, you know, we're talking about all the good that we're going to do. And, you know, the dev runs off, right? The day before we're supposed to dox. It's a learning experience for me. It impacted me so much more than some of the experiences I had just as an investor. But it reminds me, like, this isn't just unique to cryptocurrency. As long as there is the internet, as long as there are pictures, as long as you can't reach out and touch a person and meet them face to face, we all know that, hey, the invention of the internet created the concept of catfishing, right? Where people kind of have this persona. It's going to continue to happen. These things will not go away. You know, no matter what, they will not go away. But can we do something about it? Well, it all starts through education, and it all starts with empowering investors to have a filter of standards of what they will accept and what they will not accept. Now, are we sitting here say, you know, if there's not a docs team, don't invest? No, that's not our overall message. But as an investor, hopefully you will decide for yourself whether or not it's a risk you're willing to take, and be aware that it is a heightened risk when you don't have that factor in place.
Well, I can't stress enough for people that are coming out into this crypto area and are either watching now or watching on a repeat on our YouTube channel. Projects like DYOR and DBT, in which the devs and the people are out there in front of you every day. There's not a lot of those projects. There's still a lot of projects that have a lot more holders and a lot more market cap, but their devs only still have single names and you don't really know anything about them. So there's still a high risk, and a lot of those projects end up failing just because of apathy. The owners think, well, I'm involved with the project, but I'm not really involved since nobody sort of knows who I am, so I can just walk off. And then they don't just steal your money, they sell theirs, and then they leave, and you're left with a unmanaged project. So it's important, it's really important, especially a good example, since this is the DYOR Media Network, the good example is the community that's based around the DYOR project. And the DYOR community can all knows us, and they can vouch for us, and they put their trust in us as a team. And when you have that community response saying, yes, we know them, we know who they are, we know what their goals are, we know their management style, we know which team member likes to do what and how well they do it, then you have the basis of a community that trusts their team, and that is important. It's important for appreciation in your price, and it's important for trust in that. So one of the other things that Brian brought up is something that kind of our community is just getting involved in, and it's that staking and farming. And there's a lot of staking farming operations out there that promise, 1 million APR or APY, annual percentage yield. And everyone's like, I'm going to get rich. I'm just going to put $100 in here, and it's going to turn into 5 million by the end of the year. All I have to do is leave it in there all year. And what everyone finds out pretty quickly is either it's a fake staking farm that they put an unrealistic return on investment just to get your money, and then they run off with it. Or two, what they're doing is that they're actually minting twice as many coins as they're giving away in interest. So they might give you an annual rate of return that's 1,000,000%, but they're minting 2,000,000% coins, and so you've actually lost 50% of value. And so what you need to do for staking and farming is you actually have to do a lot of investment or a lot of investigating. First, find a project that has a good community and a good token and a good project, like Carmen, like setting you up for this one.
Are you talking about DBT?
Like DBT, and DBT is set up. DBT has set up a farming operation, a staking operation with our Launchpad partner DJEB, and so they already have a trusted time in the market, and also they're not giving an unrealistic rate of return. What they did is they put a certain time frame on the staking operation and a certain amount of tokens, and they're not minted, they're not coming out of nowhere to devalue your coin. They came out of the project, they were available for this purpose, and now they're being put out for staking. So all the conditions are satisfied. You have a docs team, you have a limited supply, they're not minting new ones, and you have a limited time frame with a reasonable rate of return, but still more than your bank in the real world life. But it's not crazy that people are basically lying to you about the annual percentages. So you really have to do your due diligence in finding a good place to stake, because first you need a good project with a good community that trusts everybody, and then you can rely on their staking operation. It's one of the things that happens is that you see this, our friends over at rect.news all the time, they show staking operations and central exchanges in which people restake their coins there, get hacked. And it's not necessarily people running off with your money, it's people hacking it and doing a problem. So you have to make sure you're using a safe operation, and you go from there.
One of the quotes that I like to live by when you're trying to filter through and vet things in life in general is inspect what you expect. So if you have been given promises of returns or gains or a utility to come out or a roadmap that a project is trying to accomplish, then make sure that if they say, hey, our liquidity is locked, don't just take their word for it. Go and inspect that and validate that. As a new investor, not only are you going to learn what to look for, but it's going to empower you, and it's a step that you need to take, because you shouldn't rely on others. Now, can you get help from others? Oftentimes when we enter this space, we get into call groups, we get into little chats with maybe 10 people that are friends, crypto cousins, I call them, and you can learn. But you need to know that you should be asking the right questions. So if declarations and announcements are being made, ask yourself, well, what do I need to learn, or who can help me validate that? And you should be looking for a way to validate what's happening. And that is only going to help encourage, amplify your knowledge as an investor. And remember, you're a first adopter in this space. So at some point, you're going to be the tenured person in crypto that can help be that voice for others, the same way that we have been in the same situation to have to learn these things. To your point, Tom, in the previous project that I was in, we thought liquidity was locked.
Right.
We did not inspect what we expected. We took the developer's word for it. After the fact, when all is gone, you go back and you're like, oh my gosh, that was photoshopped. Facepalm, right? You don't ever want to find yourself in that situation. So even as in the seat as an investor, ask yourself, how can I make sure that's true? And first step is be aware that you need to ask that question. So ask all the questions. Keep on asking. It's going to help educate yourself. And what's cool is that you have the DYOR community now that has tons of holders, tons of, tenured people in this space that are just waiting for people to come in and have this conversation. In the main chats of our communities, yes, you're going to have people coming in saying, how do I buy? And we can help you, operate the technology to get into the project. But come and ask questions like, hey, how do I validate a lock? How do I validate that this is a legitimate site to connect my wallet to for a DApp? And you'll find that tons of people are globally around just waiting to help you and answer it.
Well, all right. I was just trying to send a note on Telegram there. Sorry. As usual, behind the I don't know. I've got a new set, so my terminology isn't right yet. But Carmen has come up with some good real world experiences in the problems with crypto, and has learned by trial and fire. Like the rest of us, and that's our goal, is to help you and not do that. So that's our, for those of you that listen to this, we will break this part of the video out and upload it to our DYOR School section on our YouTube channel to give people a short 25-minute version of Crypto School and how not to get scammed.